we drive your business. My name is Anthony, of course, hosting you this very morning. It is a Friday, and of course, I know you're excited about the weekend, and of course, we're excited as we end another week in trading here on the global financial markets as well as on the East African markets, ending with very big gains, especially on the global US markets and definitely also on the African continent. We have seen some improvement, at least within the last 1 day of trading. You're most welcome, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Remember, you can always join our conversations on Twitter at SMART24 TV. You can also get to follow the hashtag financial markets for more information regarding the markets and also getting to know what's happening on the stock markets around the world, cryptocurrency markets. You want to know about the yields of the different treasury bonds of the different governments around the world. Definitely SMART24 is what you must follow on Twitter as well. Keep your eyes glued on the same screen. Now, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex. Now, Altex is a private stock exchange, and just recently we've been looking at reports from the Capital Markets Authority that is concerning the different financial markets, particularly the capital markets, the debt markets, and the like. And Altex East Africa is one of those companies that actually were able to renew their license for the Central Securities Depository. And so they can help you access legally treasury bonds across East Africa. You can be able to buy or even sell. And now, interestingly, they have put it at a very accessible point, and that is the smartphone or any other mobile phone that can be dialed. And you can now simply go to your phone using your MTN line, if an MTN subscriber, or even Airtel subscribers, and by simply dialing *292#, you can be able to access a multitude of 4-year, 5-year, 10-year treasury bond instruments across East Africa. We're talking bonds in Kenya, bonds in Tanzania, and bonds here in Uganda at the best interest rates that you will find on any secondary market. Altex East Africa opens their market at exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. in the morning and closes at 15 past the hour of 3 p.m. Altex, do something new. Now, let's get into the business for the day. Well, yesterday was a great day for the US market as the consumer price index data was released, and sharp gains were seen across technology stocks, particularly with Apple, Microsoft, each going up by more than 6%, as well as Amazon surging by over 10%, and Facebook, parent Meta, at 5%, placing the stocks on track for the biggest weekly gain since July 2013. And also we had Nvidia at about 9% gains. And now when you look at the stock market indexes here, all of them had gains, and we're talking big gains. You're looking at 5.8% on the industrial Dow Jones and also 4.37% on the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones, which has been suffering most recently as well, at a 2.86% gain. So it was a great day after the ringing of the bell on the US market on Wall Street, and the US market stock indexes saw outsized gains on Thursday as Wall Street cheered lighter than expected inflation data and monitored midterm election tallies. Now, the consumer price index, which is a tracker of inflation, was for October reflected about a 7.7% figure, and this increased over last year and about 0.4% increase over the prior month. And better, of course, this is pretty much better than expected by many of Wall Street economists here. And of course, economists that were surveyed just like about a month ago had actually projected about 7.9% annual rise and about 0.5% monthly rise. Well, the expectations came a little bit down now, and of course we're seeing at a 7.7% year-on-year inflation consumer price index, and a 0.4% increase there in inflation was actually registered. The S&P 500, or the Standard & Poor's as it's famously known, rallied at a 4% gain on average on Thursday trades, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which tracks the top 3,000 companies across America, also registered about 850 points upwards, and this was a 2.7% increase in the value of the Dow Jones Index. The technology-heavy Nasdaq Composite, which tracks mainly the aggregate performance of tech companies, we're talking Facebook, Google, Amazon, and the like, it registered also a whooping 5.6% gain, which is, I think, one of the biggest they've had, at least in the last few weeks and actually months. Meanwhile, the yields on the Treasury notes stumbled following the report, with the benchmark 10-year note falling below 4% level, which is also quite unprecedented this month and even last couple of days of October as well. Now, these sharp gains, as I've mentioned, were mainly seen across technology companies like Apple, Microsoft Corporation, Amazon, and Meta, Facebook, as well as Nvidia, and these increased by over 5%, 6%, and that is on Facebook and Apple as well. Now, these are, first of all, unprecedented. At least in the past couple of days this month, the tech companies have been suffering losses via the stock markets, but following yesterday's consumer price index data, definitely they had to regain their strength. When you look at the combined kind of performance, the stocks added a combined $368 billion in market capitalization on Thursday, according to data here coming in from Bloomberg Markets. The first downside surprise, inflation in several months, was inevitably received by an equity market ovation. Of course, their principal asset management chief global strategist, Mr. Sema Shah, said in a note, adding that, however, that Federal Reserve officials remain on pace to proceed with the rate increases, and the pause is still elusive. So we shouldn't be very much overexcited. The Federal Reserve Bank is still watching the markets, and we don't know if they could increase the central bank rate there. But remember, the Federal Reserve has just recently increased the Federal Reserve central bank rate from about 3% to 3.75%, which is a 75 basis points increase. And now it ranges between 3.75% and 4.0%, which is quite unprecedented as well in the current market situation. Well, that's what happened on the US stock market. Remember also, the midterm election results are underway, and many of them are coming in, and of course we're seeing now at least the markets cooling off after the second day now since the elections were conducted on Tuesday. However, we're still watching and getting to see what the markets will look like. There was a gain on almost each and everything. You're looking at gold going up, silver, crude oil, the US dollar also, had to become a little bit stronger there. Bitcoin also tried to come back with a 4.5% gain, closing at $17,839.12 US. You're seeing also CMC Crypto 200 at about 10.41% gain and a $420.96 US closing mark. The FTSE had about 1.06% added, and the Nikkei, however, on the other hand, declined. But most of the US markets were in green for the fourth day of trading in this week. Will this be maintained throughout next week? Well, that's a big question, and of course we will get to know probably across the week, and as we start the other week, of course, of trading on Monday. But we can say that given this data, there is hope. At least Americans and the entire world has at least seen some ray of hope that maybe the central bank rates increase in the central bank's increase in the central bank rate could be yielding some results. Usually it's not that easy, and sometimes you're seeing things moving in opposite direction. The central bank is increasing the rates, and yet inflation is still going out of the roof. And so it's a good piece of news here coming in from the US markets, and we hope definitely this will be sustainable as well. US inflation eased slightly, and I'll mention this last month as, of course, per consumer price index, that is by 7.7%. And so we're seeing 7.7%. But remember, the target for the Federal Reserve Bank is 2% or below. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and still we need to watch the central bank there and see if they will tamper with the central bank rate once more or not. This data is coming in from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of course, according to the Thursday release that was made. Now, economists, like I said, had made a projection of 7.9% and 0.5% for the year-on-year and month-on-month, increase, but these were not actually met, and which was quite a good thing. On the core basis, that is removing the volatile food and energy components of the report, we are seeing that there was a 6.3% year-on-year rise and about 0.3% for the month prior, that is the month of October. Expectations called for about 6.5% for the core year-on-year inflation rate and a 0.5% for a month-on-month rate. However, these were also not met, which was a good thing as well. Well, the core consumer price index decline was very much more meaningful after the measure hit its highest level since 1982 in the month of September. And the data here you can see shows that was one of the worst months in the history of the US economy in terms of the core price index, which tracks the average price of other commodities like cars, like housing, real estate, besides food and energy, which are quite more volatile. The Federal Reserve keeps a closer eye on the core inflation, which offers policymakers a more focused look at the inputs such as the housing sector headline price index, in contrast, which has moved largely in conjunction with the erratic energy prices this year round. So basically that's what we had on the markets for you. For the US market, you can keep track of what's happening on the US stock market by visiting our website as well, and you find some data there at www.smart24tv.com, and you can also keep watching the show. We will be bringing you and trying to break down some of these matters for you to understand. Remember, US has just gone through a midterm election, which is basically where they elect members of the Congress and the House, the Congress House, as well as representatives on the US Congress. So you're looking at different states coming together to vote. We could say maybe probably members of parliament, if at all we could put it in our own political realm here in Uganda. But this definitely has a lot of influence on the markets, because as we know, in the US we have two big parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And each of these has several ideas. They have several perspectives that they represent, of course, and a certain amount of people that follow these precepts or these perceptions and ideas. And these ideas definitely do have an impact on how the stock markets really play out. For example, you're looking at Democrats, who are pro-abortion. Democrats are also into, much more of the economy, and yet Republicans are not that much into these things. So whenever these elections happen, definitely we are having different people in the Congress, different people in the House of Commons, and these, of course, will make decisions based on the interests of their party, and that's why midterm elections are quite key when it comes to the US economy and how these definitely do affect our economies as well. Now, away from the US market, that was it. We still had a very good market here on the African continent. Looking across the board, generally the markets were good, pretty much better than the first few days of this week. But still in East Africa, we still had quite some challenges with Uganda and Tanzania as well. But Nairobi played out well for the fourth day of trading. And yes, this is data according to AFX Stock Exchange and also the different stock exchanges across Africa. Now let's have a look at the different markets here and get to see what transpired. For Ghana Stock Exchange still registered a very slight improvement, well, better than the day before. About 0.96 points was actually gained on Ghana Stock Exchange all share index, and this was a 0.04% gain here. And remember, Ghana Stock Exchange has a market capitalization all share index, weighted all share index, which is a pretty good one for us to track performance here on the exchange. Johannesburg Stock Exchange also had an appreciation of about 954 points on its all share index, which is the J203, which was also a quite good performance for the week and closing the week in style. Now, among us, over about, 421 companies, we had about 323 companies participate in the trades on Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which is the biggest and oldest stock exchange in in Africa at large, and the principal stock exchange for South Africa. Now, amongst these, we had 183 gainers, that is on the top gainers list, and about 119 losers, with Visual International Holdings leading the gainers by about 33.33%. Well, when you look at this market data, of course, these are huge movements, of course, because of the nature and size of the market. A single company having their share price appreciate 33%. Put that in perception. If at all, for example, a company maybe costs $100, maybe in terms of stock, one stock is $100, and in a single day, the stock price increases by over $33. That's 133 US dollars, which is a pretty good performance when you look here, for example, on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And it's important that you get to know that you can invest across borders without limits. Avenues have been availed, online trading is available. If you get the right people, get the right information, you can do this right. So you should also be looking out for opportunities in some of these mega markets. And of course, you might not put much there. You could put a little bit for the start to just taste the waters and see how it plays out. But it's very important for market diversification as well. We also had Goldfields at a 21% gain, and Trelido Holdings at also about 22.7% gain on the markets in South Africa. Now, according to this data, compared with the previous day, in Johannesburg Stock Exchange, we had a 10% improvement in terms of turnover, the money that was transacted, as well as a 13% improvement in the number of deals and a 10% improvement in the volumes as well. We're talking about a volume of close to 19.5 billion rand on a single day of trading, and close to about 311 million shares that were transacted on the exchange. That's data coming in from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, elsewhere in Africa, we're seeing that, let's see, Nairobi also was one of the big boys for the day's trades yesterday. Nairobi gained about 0.83 points on its all-share index, which is the benchmark of the Nairobi markets there. And this gain did not leave the markets the same. And we also had about, let's see, we had about 47 participants on the market out of the 65 listed companies, and the day ended with over 14 gainers and 23 losers on the market. TPS, East African Serena, was the top gainer at about 8.89% share price appreciation in Nairobi. And on the losing side, we had CIC Insurance, which came out last with an end of day price depreciation of close to 8.04% there on the Nairobi market. We're going to see the details of that market later on, but let's go elsewhere in Africa. Nigeria was also another market that moved totally in the positive direction, looking at their all-share index. Now, regarding the NGX all-share index, which is the benchmark performance indicator, it increased by over 465 points, and this was closing to 43,942 points on the fourth day of trading, representing a 1-week loss of close to 0.66% and a 4-week loss of 7.54%. That is how badly the markets have been as well in Nigeria rather, and now we're seeing the markets improve slowly by slowly. In terms of the participation on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, we had about 102 Nigerian companies participate in trades there on the fourth day of trading, and about 14 gainers were registered and 17 losers on the exchange. We have about 157 companies on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, by the way. Now, looking at the top gainers here, MRS Oil Nigeria led the top gainers with about 12.85 shares, rather 9.83% gain, closing at 12.85 Nigerian Nairas. We also had Courtville Business Solutions coming along as the top gainers at 8.7%, Unity Bank at about 8.33%, as well as Julius Berger Nigeria, who came out with an end of day price depreciation of 9.81%. That meant he was the bottom loser for the day at Nigerian Stock Exchange. Zimbabwe, on the other hand, had a rough day, just like Uganda, with about 201.66 points off their at least all-share index, and this was a 1.37% decline that was registered on the Zimbabwean Stock Exchange. Generally, that was the data from Africa. Uganda also wasn't a very good performer for the day, and we're going to return after a quick breather on how the Ugandan Stock Exchange actually performed on the fourth day of trading this week. My name is Anthony Sebala. You're watching Financial Markets, and this is SMART24 TV, where we drive your business. We're taking a quick break, and when we return with more of what happened on Uganda Stock Exchange. Stay with us. We'll be right back.